Hello and welcome to the Ghost Veteran video. This video is for anyone who wants to improve their murder rate as a ghostly courtier in Lunatic Inquisition and already knows the basics. This will basically be a series of tips, so let's get to it. Alright, first tip. Always carry a spider web. Placing it down anywhere you think it might be activated within a minute is good, especially if it's in a spot where villagers can teleport to when falling from a ledge. Alternatively, you can set it around corners because villagers do love going around corners, so that way they can get even farther ahead of you because they are faster than you. Alright, as mentioned in the beginner video, keep an eye on your mini-map for things like a ping from an alarm wall, dots from the telepad radars, and white villager icons. We can get a alarm wall demonstration here. I've got the map open and there we go. There's that. You can also see it on the mini-map there. And then likewise, whenever standing on a teleport pad, you can see an orange dot. There's the offending villager right now, a friend and fellow guildmate, Bella. So that's how that works. Okay, so generally at the beginning of a game, if you're a ghost, you'll want to head either south down that hallway or east first. Because at the start, veteran players will want to obtain pumpkins as villagers in the south, or they'll go to any of the eastern hiding places that we'll cover later in this video. Okay, the best places for villagers to hide are going to be in the corners of the map, because it takes a minute to reach each one. They are beyond the radar range, and their names are well hidden whenever you're there up close in person. I'll show you those locations now. Okay, the first spot is here in the northeast. They'll often hide around this ledge. It can be a little tricky to get to. A lot of people tend to fall off, but they'll hide right here in this spot. Okay, another spot of the three best spots is here in the southeast. They will be right here in this corner, hiding out of sight, but now you know. Okay, and the final of the three places is here in the southwest, this corner right over here, the edge of the map. Very much out of view and definitely far away from the radars. Okay, some secondary places that are good for villagers to hide in are worth mentioning here. These places can be seen whenever you're standing on one of the telepads, and so you can see their dots with the radar. However, there's still a good distance out of the way, usually along a ledge, and they do a pretty good job of obscuring the line of sight to seeing their name tag. So here's one spot in the north. A second spot in the north is right here. They usually hang out right here in this little corner, but there's no ledge, so it's not very safe for them. Okay, the first of the two spots here in the east is down this long hallway and around the corner here. They do like to hide up in this area, and they also like to practice a game called golfing, so be on the lookout for being stunned and having combat here. The second ledge here in the east is another good spot that they like to hide. They'll typically, sometimes they'll be up there, but they'll typically be down here, which is out of sight, of course, and that's the point, and they like to fall into here. Okay, and the final place is here in the west side. There's right next to an alarm wall. It's kind of tricky for them to get to. They have to approach it from the other side, or we'll know. But they'll come around here into this corner, and they have this whole open space available for them. Sometimes they like to hide up in here. Okay, just as a demonstration, again with Bella, in each of these places that I just showed, you can attempt to flush them out by using your number 4 fear. Sometimes they'll go invisible and you might not see them. I happen to know that there's a person there. So I'll use number 4, try to flush them out. And I know that if it succeeds, they will respawn here in the middle. But as you can see, my friend did not get feared off the ledge. So it's just this villager here. And if you think they know to dodge through the fear, then you can set a trap. Ideally, it'll be a web, like I mentioned earlier, if you have a web. Um, in this case, there's a lot of torches around. These will do damage. So you can try to fear a person off the ledge and into the torch. Alternatively, you can always run up in a sort of melee and use your number 3 to fear them off the ledge. This will send them into the middle. Unfortunately, the specific place where they end up teleporting to might not be where you set the trap. So you can save your number 4 here to quickly get back to wherever the spot is if you do have to run up and use number 3. So I'll demonstrate that here. Using a dodge to try to catch up, and then the number 4, and then another dodge, and a number 2. And that at least gets them quite low, so if you have other ghosts nearby, they can finish the job, or you can try to catch up to them later before they reach some food. And a final tip here is if your number 4 is on cooldown, like mine currently is, then it is worth waiting, because they're not going anywhere. It's worth waiting until it comes off cooldown before you start doing all of this, so that way you can do the teleport to catch up or to slash on them. Alright, chasing tips. Here we go. If you can see a villager dot or icon on the move, such as that one to the east there, you can try to zoom out, see how far they're going. If you think that they're going to cross the telepad right at the moment that you teleport, you can get pretty much right on top of them. Sometimes they'll go around a corner and just be invisible, but that's something that you can try to do every now and then, just tracking their icons or their dots, like I said, on the telepad. Okay, if a villager is moderately ahead, like some of these here are, you can use your number 4 to try to catch up to them. It's recommended that you still save your number 4s for whenever you know that you're going to be within range of your number 2, just as I demonstrated there. Always try to aim slightly ahead of where they are running, but in that case I could see that that one's in the middle of an animation, so I went ahead and just made sure I was next to them. If someone is pretty far ahead, you can always use a MKS. That'll keep them in combat, and it'll lock them out of picking up items, and of course if they fail to do it, it will damage them and stun them. This will mostly allow you to close the gap, but of course if they're low on health like that one was, they will die. Okay, there are a lot of walls, so if a villager is ahead of you, and I have Belly here again to demonstrate, if a villager is ahead of you, and they end up going, say, around a corner or around a wall up ahead, you start to lose sight of them. If they're still within range, you might be able to use an MKS, but I was out of range there, so that's fine. There will be more walls. But you might be able to use an MKS to try to close the distance here. If they go invisible, like she just did, I don't know exactly where she is, but she couldn't have gotten far, so I'll try to use a fear here, and, well, also the MKS helps reveal her location, so that's a couple of things there that can help you just close the distance when chasing. Another thing to point out here is they can hear you using MKS, and they will do something like that. So one of the things you can do is start to use an MKS, and then interrupt it, and hopefully they'll not know that you're trying to feint them, trying to get them to waste their food, because it will force them to use the food, and then you can try to catch up with a teleport, and then, a slash, or keep fearing them into a wall or something. Okay, so if you're chasing a villager, and it's been going on for a while, they're going to be far outside of your teleport reach here. They might be outside of your Mad King says, or they'll have food that they can use. So you want to chase them a good ways, and then eventually, when they're too far ahead of you, you can head back to a telepad and just kind of see if they're still running away from you or what's going on. Just kind of observe their movement, their behavior, and if it looks like they are going to keep going to the next telepad or to the next source of food, you can head over there and try to cut them off. Especially if you can reach the food before them and then drop it down as a trap. I was a little bit late to that one, but this was just a demonstration. Thank you. If you see a villager that is about to get some food, such as that food right there, you can try to use fear to stop them from picking it up. There's some food up ahead. I see that if I wait too long, she could have dodged through that, but by going ahead of it, it makes it easier to prevent it from happening. The next demonstration will be, you have to time your Mad King Says sooner, because again, if she had dodged, she would have reached that food before Mad King Says finished, and there's a small chance she might have been able to pick it up. So you want to stay on top of using your MKS if you're going to prevent someone from grabbing food. Okay, another thing is, if you can reach food before another villager does, that's another good way to prevent them from getting it, because then you can just pick it up and take it. If I happen to know that the villager has already taken food from the other corner, or maybe that other corner, that means that they won't have any food anywhere nearby, and I should be able to kill them without using an MKS to slow them down. But it just depends upon the villager and where other random food spawns might be. Okay, so this is ultimately a team game, so don't hesitate to call on your fellow ghosts to spam fears at a skilled player or a group of players. If they're running around and they're staying outside of you, they only have 2 dodges that they can do in a row, so feel free to, use your fears, all of your fears, to try to get them into a wall or something, and with enough of you, they won't be able to escape it. If you are chasing a villager and you're in a group of ghosts, or there's a couple of you, you can always try to teleport kind of ahead, especially if the villager's pretty far ahead. And using your fears, you can steer them back into the other ghosts, who can then use their number 2 to try to, kill them. If they do dodge through that number 4 AoE one, but you're still ahead of them, you can turn around and use the slightly harder to dodge number 3 to fear them into the ghosts that are still chasing. Another thing is that sometimes villagers will travel in groups. These groups may be organized, or it might just be coincidence. You never know what kind of person will spawn into the game. Regardless of whether they know something or not, some of them are just violent. In either case, be prepared for a fight, and don't be afraid to pursue a new villager if the other one is gaining some distance because of a group of them throwing webs at you, torches, whatever they have at you. Alright, so you're chasing a villager. If you're able to catch up to them while on the run, try to fear them into a wall or get them stuck on some terrain. That way they'll be within your striking distance. Sometimes, like we just saw there, people do have lag, and they might end up being somewhere where you didn't think that was the case, so that's just another thing to look out for, but that's true always. As I've noted in previous videos, but it's always worth noting, if there is a villager who is the last villager alive, they will eventually get Ripper spawned directly on their position. They'll glow for a bit, and then Ripper will appear at their feet, wherever they are. If they're on the run, this means that they won't be able to pick it up, so if you happen to be chasing them and they're moving, use Fear whenever you see Ripper spawning, so they can't pick it up. If they do pick it up, you'll see just how deadly it is here in a moment. Go ahead. 1, 2, 3, and we're dead. Just like that, it will one-shot a ghost. It's an AoE effect as well, so any ghosts within that melee range will all die. It's very fun for villagers to use if they happen to know how to use it. However, it's also rather unwieldy for them to use. As they try to use it on you, you can easily interrupt it because you'll see the animation of them doing it, and if you are on top of things, you'll be able to stop them. Now, let's see that one more time. And then while they're feared, of course, you can use your number 2. While we're on this note, go ahead and try to use it again. You can always dodge and then kill. Okay, so villagers will try to control the flow of combat by managing your position using their CC skills. One of these is going to be the torch. Go ahead, please. However, you can jump through it. If you don't jump through it, you will be stuck in a long animation, but I've already covered this before. Another thing that they'll try to use is, say, a bone and hammer combination. The bone will deal damage and stun you. The hammer will knock you back if they use the number 2. But ultimately, they just want to, CC you so that way they can kill you or knock you off of a nearby ledge. So what you want to do is save your dodges only whenever you can follow up with either a kill using your axe or using a fear to position them in your favor before then trying to kill them. Using your number 3 fear, like I said earlier, is slightly harder for them to deal with than your number 4 fear. We'll demonstrate this soon. Okay, all right, go ahead and come at me with that bone. Saving your dodge, getting past them, and then, like I said, using your number 2 as the follow-up. Let's go again. Your number 4 will take a little bit longer to execute, and you have to be a little trickier with it. Yeah, keep coming after me. So you want to just become more familiar with how it works before doing stuff like that. Let's go again. In this case, I knew about the same range that things would be, and she was going easy on me, just swinging the bone. So whenever you see the swing, you know that there's going to be a small delay, and if you know about the range of the bone and the range of your axe, you can then position yourself accordingly. I don't know how to explain that, so just practice and you'll get a feel for it too. Try to use your number 2 on even terrain. If there was a villager here and we try to hit them and they are above this, even just slightly, it will miss them. Likewise, if you're significantly above a villager and try to use it, it will miss them again because they'll be below it. It is a horizontal slash. It has a small kind of AoE range, but honestly not that much, so it can miss pretty easily unless you are on relatively even or flat terrain. Embrace death. Please kill me. Dying grants you 5 seconds of invulnerability as soon as you're alive again here, as you can see. So use this time to do your common combo of number 4 and then number 4 again and then number 2. Number 4, number 4, number 2. Always the combo to do. And whenever you're invulnerable, no one can stop you, CC you with a torch or bone or anything. Okay, for this next part, villagers with a gun, like my friend Lily has here, and a feast in the middle can be very formidable combinations. So the main trick is over the course of fighting with them to keep them away from the feast. You'll want to use, your 2 CCs and any other tricks that you might have. You can even try to use Mad King Says, but because of the long duration of a feast, about 9-10 seconds, as well as the respawning every 45 seconds of food in the corners that are nearby, it's going to be very tricky no matter what. But if they are just trying to kill you a lot and don't suspect that you're going to be doing this, then you might have a window of opportunity here and there. So we're going to try to demonstrate that. So let's just start fighting. And I'll also try to not kill you here. Using a Mad King Says won't prevent them from interacting with the feast, but it will just be, a little more CC and wasting their time. And on this note, now's a good time to mention once again that having ghosts with you can make things a lot more difficult. A ghost one-on-one will always have an advantage just because we have all the different skills constantly. But 2 ghosts are pretty much necessary whenever you have a villager with a gun and food and a feast. And the final tip here is to play terribly. Seriously. Make the skilled players that you notice in a game, especially if they have a gun or whatever, make them think that you are bad over the course of a match. So that way they'll play a little more carelessly, and when they are overextended from nearby food or feasts, you can then, use your fears to set up an MKS, and then another fear or an axe number 2 to discourage them from reaching their closest food or feast. Etiquette. Using Mad King Says makes a villager drop their pumpkin, or jack-o'-lantern in this case. So I'll use it here, and it makes them drop it. Unfortunately for them, pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns will disappear when they are dropped, meaning that the villager is unable to obtain the gun without reattempting the process from scratch. People enjoy being rewarded for their efforts, so you're really stealing a dopamine rush more than stealing the pumpkin itself. This is generally disliked. That said, it's a viable strategy in a PvP game and in character for someone playing as a lunatic courtier. Just don't be surprised when the villagers rally against you. Okay, the next etiquette tip is spamming Mad King Says. They just came out of a dance, but before I let them get a hammer or food or any other item, I'm going to put them in another dance. The first dance was courtesy of another ghost, so spamming Mad King Says isn't even really necessary, especially because there's multiple ghosts. And you can always chain your fears and other things like that to keep them stuck in, a corner like this. So, generally, people hate being spammed with Mad King Says, especially with your dance and ponder skills because they take a long time to execute. Since ghosts can easily win with these, and it deprives them of their any means that they have to fight back, it significantly reduces any sort of PvP gameplay that exists in this minigame, since they can't fight back. However, if a certain villager or more is spamming food and they're running circles around you, staying out of reach constantly, or coming back to kill you and then staying out of reach again because they just keep spamming food, then it seems probably a little bit more fair for you to seize an opportunity to then spam MKS and return the favor. Okay, the next etiquette thing. So speaking of spamming MKS, sometimes you'll be following a villager and they'll have some food, and there's just not much you can do about that as of yet. One of the things you can do, however, is, for example, I know that Lily here has food right now, and if I start casting MKS, she will likely use it because she doesn't want to, have to go through the skill. That will knock me back. She could fall off the ledge and then just run away with the super speed while I'm knocked back. If she's lucky, I'll be in a bad position and even get knocked off the ledge. So what we can do is pretend to do Mad King Says. I'll start casting, and then I will interrupt it with a dodge. She's used her food, so now she doesn't have food to stop me. This means I am free to cast Mad King Says again. However, another way to interrupt the Mad King Says without wasting your dodges is to stow your weapon, which I was a little bit too late in doing. So I'll demonstrate that one more time here. I'll use ponder and then interrupt the casting by stowing my weapon. So you can see the little progress bar at the bottom of the screen, and it cancels. That's another way to get them to waste their food. However, it does grant them a movement speed buff, so you'll want to have your teleport ready to catch up to them, or another ghost waiting for them. Okay, last thing of etiquette here is I'm going to demonstrate what is called a stealth MKS. Just a moment ago, you saw me using an MKS to try to get them, to trick them into thinking we're going to be using it and then actually using it. The stealth MKS works by, rather than having them selected to begin with, what you'll want to do is not have them selected, start casting it, and then select them before the progress bar finishes. This gives them no notification that you are using an MKS. However, if you would, after this, go ahead and go back for the food. Oh, there's food right there. Perfect. However, okay, sorry about that. However, villagers who are familiar with the game, they are looking back and they can see your casting animation. So even if you are doing a silent MKS, which can you run back this way? I'm going to go ahead and do the silent MKS again. So she will not know. Yeah, go ahead and run. She will not know whenever I am casting it unless she looks back at me. So I'm going to start casting it here and then select her. And I guess I did speak it out loud, as you can also hear. However, they do have to look back whenever you're doing a silent MKS, and the better players will be looking back. So it doesn't always work whenever you're doing a silent MKS. So that's why if you are going to do this, be sure that you're trying to blend in with other ghosts. Or another thing you can try to trick them with is while you're chasing them and you're still within range of your MKS, start doing the silent casting but face away from them, so they think you might be going for a different villager or are just inept. As you can surmise, this is a breach of the unofficial etiquette because it doesn't give them a sporting chance to fight back or have a good counter for it unless they are looking back at you. Finally, ignoring these unofficial etiquette rules will likely draw the attention of others who like to play at their best. So you can count on those types of people targeting you if you manage to pull it off. If you really enjoy PvP, this is a great thing for you and for them both. That is it. That concludes the video on some of the more veteran tips for Ghost players. Happy Halloween.